for those to make it. So put these up on YouTube, but it's a very hard place to find. You just look for Fly Fishing with Mick, and it's just got round F as a symbol. That way we could look at it, but most people aren't looking for it. So in the upper right corner, you have a view. If you kind of click on that, you'll see you could have speaker gallery. Depends on how you want to look at it, but if you want to just focus on the person who's actually doing the speaker, you would click on speaker, and then you would actually have all the bars up on top, and then whoever is usually actually, let's go back to gallery. It's probably the easier way to do it. Whoever's talking at that point, if you kind of hover over their square, you'll see a blue mute and then a blue box with 3 little white dots. You would click on that box with 3 dots and then scroll about halfway down. You should see pin. If you pin that, then that locks in on the person who might be tying, and you might hear other people talking, but you won't lose your video of them. So that's the best way to pin. If I hear any background noise, I might mute you. If you need to talk, just unmute yourself. But that's the basics. So we will turn this over to, did we say?
What's pin for now? What does it do?
Say again?
The pin, Walt,
Okay.
the pin on the 3 little dots, it keeps it
I
on the
know
person
I'm
who's
there.
talking.
I'm there, but what does it actually do? I don't.
It locks the photo to whoever would be tying or whoever you want to pin it to. Because if you're in the speaker view and people start talking, your views are going to change, but you might want to keep it on right now, like Carl, who's going to be doing the time, but you can hear everyone else talk.
Okay. So basically have an open discussion while we're doing this.
Yeah.
Sure.
If you got questions, bring it up. That's how we've always been doing it.
Well, I got some jokes.
Uh-oh. Sorry, Amanda.
That's
Birthday.
sorry. We're muting you. Bye, Walt.
All right, Carl.
Carl, you ready? Carl, you ready to roll on this? You want to
I'm
start
ready.
off, and then I'll follow behind, and then I don't know if anybody else has another pattern.
Okay. This here is not, it's not a sulfur, or is it not an Adams? It's just something I was piddling with, marabou fly. But I thought that was pretty cool. All right.
I'm glad you said that. I was way off on my flies.
Like, dang, I looked up the wrong one too.
Yeah, I was like, I messed up bad.
This is the new sulfur, in case you guys didn't know.
Which reminds me, we should do dumbbell eyes next week. In case
Yes, I
anybody else.
like dumbbell eyes.
Okay.
All
We
right.
can derail a conversation faster than anybody, Mick.
Is that like a Klaus minnow that you just pulled up?
Kinda. A Klauser minnow, kind of, sort of, but with marabou.
Okay, so this is what we're going to tie in a sense here. This is a sulfur pattern, mayfly pattern. I'm also going to do an Adams, and what I understand the difference between the Adams and the sulfur is just the color. So maybe somebody can correct me on that, but that was my understanding of it. But anyway, that's a sulfur pattern I tied before I went up to Michigan. One of my buddies said that works well up there, and it did. I caught a few fish up there on it. But I'm going to do a traditional Adams pattern. This is going to be size 14 dry fly hook. From the Wholesale Fly Company, and good place to get fly hooks and things, pretty reasonably priced. We're going to use for the tail, we're going to have a strip of what I call barred rock or grizzly hackle, just white and black. For the body, I'm going to use a gray foam thread that I've kind of grown fond of. I found these on Amazon and it makes a really nice body. One of the things about that I was reading on John Girox's book that made a lot of sense to me was on Adams or on any parachute pattern, he likes a really thin body. Claims it floats better and doesn't sink and that sort of stuff. All right, then for the, put this away. For the top part of the fly, I'm going to be just using some craft fur that you can get this at Hobby Lobby or Michael's or something. I've used this for the parachute patterns and I've had fairly good luck with it. You can also use poly yarn, which works well too. But I couldn't find my poly yarn, so I'm going to use that. So we're going to also use I'm going to just use an 8/0. You could use a gray thread. Most of this fly gets covered up with the thread, so it doesn't really matter which color you use. You could even use white if you want to, Amy. So anyway, we're going to start up around one eye length behind the eye here. And I'm going to just do a few wraps here and trim it off, just enough to get started. Then I'm going to get some poly yarn or craft fur, whatever you have, something that just to create a floating on it. And with this stuff, you can get a lot of under fur, which I found to be pretty easy to get out just by pulling it out, stripping it out, pull the little dubbing out, and you could save that if you wanted to at some point. But you don't need a whole lot. See, I don't really have a lot there. I mean, this is a size 14 hook, so it's pretty.
What's the name of that stuff?
This is just a craft fur. You can buy it at Hobby Lobby, and they got it in colors like red and blue and green and whatever color you want. So I'm going to get one wrap and I'm going to pull straight up, go up, down a couple times. Then you can see I'm kind of leaving myself a little bit of a hold up here to create the parachute. I'm going to go ahead and go around it in a figure 8 manner. And then I'm going to hold it up and I'm going to gently go around it. And as I'm holding it, I'm winding the thread right at the base. Now, I like to do the parachute pattern. I like to get the post tied on first. And as you build it up, you could just gradually work it up. What you want to try to do is just get it to the point where you could get up I like to get up about a quarter of an inch. So just be patient with it. And once you get it wrapped up, you can start getting it going. Now that's a little too high. I'm going to back off a second there. Just one wrap on top of the other, and then go back down. Then I'm going to secure it with a few figure 8 wraps. And that's a little longer than I need, but I'm going to leave it up there for right now. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to wrap my thread basically to the point of the hook, but I'm going to wrap the body up to the bend of the hook, or up to where the barb of the hook is. Put that a little better where you can see it there. And then I'm going to take some grizzly hackle. I want to get some stiff fibers towards the back here. I don't want anything too webby. And I'm gonna pull it down and pull the feathers out straight. And just pull them off straight like that. So I have about that much there. Then you can see that I don't have any thread here towards the back, and that's on purpose. So I want to make the tail the length of the shank, which is pretty normal in proportions. And I'm going to take it, switch hands on it, and I'm going to go right to the bend of where I want it. I'm going to get one loose wrap around, and then I'm going to come up. Now, one of the guys I've been watching on YouTube had a really cool technique with this to get your tail straight. And that is hold the tail while you're wrapping it and move the tail back and forth like this while you're wrapping it. I don't know if you can see that, but it helps keep the tail feathers on the top of the hook, keeps it flat. Then I'm going to go one wrap around underneath it, and then I'm going to go over to lock it in and secure it. Then I'm going to trim, if I can get these tail feathers up here. They kind of wrap down on me a little bit. Sorry. Whoops.
I saw that coming.
Well, I usually don't do that. I only do it on TV.
Yep. Garrett,
Hey,
We,
if I don't
we
have,
saw nothing. We saw nothing.
if I don't have some entertainment in here, we don't have a,
We don't have a show.
nope.
I just feel good that you did it, Carl, and that you were up first tonight. Sorry.
I guess I get to be the guinea pig, right?
You do.
Demonstrated
Come
an
on.
excellent recovery.
Well, it's all right. It's only thread and feathers.
Yep.
And it happens. And I think, the best part is anytime this does happen, it happens to all of us.
I don't do it very
Like
often, I only do
Luna.
it on TV. So I'm gonna get
I
a,
know.
I'm gonna get a piece of this gray thread, and it's just fly thread, and I bought it on Amazon, and I didn't really know what it was worth. It was like $3 for like 8 spools, and I got all different kinds of colors, and I thought, well, what the heck, I'll try it. But I really like it for wrapping these dry fly bodies because it's got some air in it, it's got some buoyancy, and it's pretty easy to manage when you're wrapping it. So I'm gonna cut off where I get a little tag here. I'm gonna hold it down on there at a 45 degree and get it on there. I'm gonna go back to the bend right here and stop, and then I'm gonna go forward. Now, some people will dub this, and you could use a dubbing, just some gray dubbing or whatever color dubbing you want with this. But I think this is nice because it gives a nice clean body and wrapping up to it. And you can form it to give it some sort of a base at the abdomen. You can pull it tighter or looser, and just really, really works slick. Then I'm gonna go up here around the base, and then I'm gonna go right up towards the front. I'm gonna wrap all the way up to the front of the eye hook just to get it some cover. Then I'm gonna come back towards the base and come back over here. Then I'm gonna wrap it off. Get 2 turns there, 1 turn there. I'm gonna call that good. Yeah, I had quite a bit out there and I still got quite a bit left. I got another one for another fly there. So, I mean, this stuff lasts forever. So, the key trick on these pheasant, or not pheasant tails, but on these Adams to me is, I like it to where it splays out well, and typically you'll use the same kind of width as you would as you on your if you were doing a regular hackle pattern on an Adams like this. But I like to get them a little bigger if I can, but this is a size 14 hook, and this is about right at the base of this stem, is right around probably closer to a 12. No, that's right around 14. So it's pretty close. So key thing in this is you want to get a fair amount of stem when you do this. So you take your thumb and forefinger and strip a good base off here. Now that's a little longer than I probably need right there, if you can see that. But I want to have, when I tie this in, I want to have some stem to work with when I go up here, because I'm going to tie it down and then I'm going to wrap it in here. So I'm going to hold it up right here, get a couple on there that I need. I'm going to trim my stem to long enough to where I can do it and not cut my thread this time. Whoop, back up a little bit here. Should have gone right at the base. Let me get my thread wrapped up here. Then I'm going to tie the front part in here. I'm going to come back up here, and I'm going to go around with it one time here. And that's just to hold it in. Then I'm going to take wraps and I'm going to go around it. And I'm going to start at the top of it. You want to try to hold these in as tight as you can. And if you get a good base on it, once you get it under there, then you can do under wraps on it. Now, here's the trick. How do you finish this thing? Well, you got to go up, take your thread up behind your hackle and go underneath your hackle and kind of weave it back and forth to get it up underneath the post. And go down. And then cut the feather, not the thread. Now, sometimes you can have a little bit of that feather like underneath here a little bit, but that's okay. Then take my whip finisher, wherever I put it. Go around it, go underneath it, just like this around the post. And finish it off. And there we have it. And then I like mine a little bit high, so I hold it up high and trim it about where I want it. There you go.
Great, Carl. Can you flip that? Can you flip that on the underside so that people can get an idea of what that profile looks like when it hits the water? There you go. So it has the whole, yep, that whole, the hackle kind of splays out. It's going to sit in the film, meaning that top layer. And it also grabs air bubbles, which is really pretty cool with that. And the whole look of it. So the hook's kind of a little bit below the surface. The tail holds it up some. Yeah, and very nice. The only other thing I would say is that if you're doing these, you know, give yourself a break on tying in the post and tying in your hackle, and definitely come back to it, walk away, come back. One of my all-time favorite patterns to fish. It's extremely effective. And right now, as we're getting into bluegill and bass and crappie, they'll come up for stuff. So this is a fun one to know how to tie. And if it's spinning or it's too long on your post, that's what your nippers are for. Cut it down a little bit, cut it down a little bit. That post on top is more about sight as opposed to aerodynamics on this fly. Great job.
Yeah.
Super job. And they work great with the Tenkara rod too.
Oh, I'm sure.
Of course they do, John. Of course they do.
It's a fly
Oh.
that's a fly the Tenkara rod can handle, huh?
It is.
Yeah,
Yep.
I got it.
You
Yeah,
want to
'cause
put
you
my
have to
new
have a
sulfur
20
on your Tenkara rod?
There you go. That's it.
There you go.
Nice.
We'll be trying some dumbbells at Bennett. We'll see how those hold up on the Tenkara. The Toyota rod. In case any new folks on here, so John will make himself known. But there is a different kind of rod that also is fly fishing, the Tenkara rod. It's basically a telescopic rod. It has a line in there, and then you have your leader off of that. So John's a big fan of it, loves it. He's also coming to us from Omaha, Nebraska, and you will continually hear John add in about the flies that you should be using.
It's pretty similar to the old cane rod.
Painful.
Yep.
Painful.
Yeah, except it costs a heck of a lot more.
Yeah.
But that's the only difference is the cost.
It works. It does work.
Yes,
We have
it does
pictures of
work.
you catching fish. We're not doubting you on that side. But and every once in a while, John will demo the flies for that, and you'll find out they're exactly similar to what we use right now. All right, Carl, you look like you're teed up already again. So what you got?
You want me to do another one, or you want somebody else to go?
I got a question.
Go for it, Walt.
Look, I've been tying some like Adams on a 20 hook. This, making like those little white flies down in Montauk.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've been doing them on a 2024 hook, but I don't want to use hackle. And I saw some that was using another material for a wing, versus. hackle.
Yeah, last week when we did the Mayfly series, I was using that spinner material, and you can tie it in like an X, like a button, and you tie it in like that. And so you can use those on the wings on the 45 of your hook shank, and it's a trico. What's coming off right now in those little white flies, people refer to as tricos.
Goes. Yeah.
And yep, and so instead of a post style, tie them in on the sides, almost like you would on legs. But we did that last week, and I just used the parapost material on that. But
Well,
yeah, I can send you a picture of it, or I've got it up. I'll do on mine, because that's what I have teed up on this. And after, we'll let Carl, because you're on the camera tonight, Carl, and then why don't you tie one more for us, and then I'll jump on. Because
Okay.
again, this is my favorite. This is my favorite, so I can't. Well, this is one of my favorites.
And Walt, if you're interested, I just posted a YouTube video of the video of Mike Kelly tying a a rusty spinner that is a kind of a trico. So it's up on the Project Healing Waters Omaha Facebook page.
okay.
They are so effective. And if you fish double dries at all, only because you can't see that second one. If you're fishing only tricos, it's nearly impossible to see those on the take. You just have to. I think Roger and I know. You see something even kind of going towards it, you just set, because you're pretty sure they're coming after your fly. But they're impossible to see on the water. And so it creates a lot of frustration for fishing dry flies. But if you do a double dry, meaning you have one on the front rig that's a true dry, big, and then you have another one coming off the back, you'll be able to set a few more fish on that one. But the Trico, you know, you're talking anything from 12 all the way to 22, 24s, but you won't be able to see the fly in the water.
Actually, I know guys that tie them down to 32s.
Yeah, I don't know who does that crazy stuff, but
Yeah,
yeah,
not me, not me.
nah. I was gonna say my pegboard stops at a certain point. Know your limits.
Yeah, I think I stopped at 18.
Yeah, I have some 24s, but
Oh,
you know, it is, you know, part of it is about the success of it too, and they will go. It just depends on your water, and it depends on how you tie them up. So, all right, Carl, you got the post in.
Got the post in, yep, and we're gonna do the same thing on this one, only we're gonna do it with the yellow, more of the sulfur type pattern. And use
Hey, Carl,
basically,
can you change shirts?
no, what's wrong with my shirt?
No, he's talking about the contrast
Oh,
on.
actually, I
but
thought
it's-
this one would work pretty good, but I guess it didn't.
See, dark shirt, white thread, and you guys give me crap every week. That's all.
All right, so I got the post on and I'm just gonna wrap back about halfway, just like I did before. And I just took this time I'm gonna use a barred rock or a grizzly hackle. I grew up knowing them as barred rocks because I used to raise them. So again, same thing, take the length of the tail, you want the length of the shank. So I measure it here, grab it with the other end, and I take it to the bend of the hook where I want it. Get one loose wrap down. And then I come up and then I just wrap back, holding the tail, moving it back and forth to the barb of the hook. Some people like those straight. I like to wrap it up underneath here because I think it gives it a little bit better hold on it. And let's see if I can do this with not cutting my thread this time.
Yay.
Oh, I had the
The thing
great fun
about
of
this-
having to cut my fly line today.
So I'm going to use some of the yellow thread here. This pattern really up in Michigan in the summertime. It really is. It's a go-getter.
Hey, Carl,
Yeah.
can you try pushing your vise towards the camera just a little bit? Back a little. That's, oh, well, you probably had it there.
About as close as I can get it right there.
I think you need to change your shirt.
This is one brutal crowd.
You don't
like
want me to,
this is-
if I take my shirt off, you'll all be blind.
It's gonna be even wider. Yeah, we in the golf world we call those out of bounds stakes. Yeah. Yeah, we're a brutal crowd, right, Carl?
Oh,
We're
yeah.
like, oh yeah, come tie for us, and then we just give you crap the whole time.
All right. So anyway, I guess I could have done this one with a dubbing, but I just kind of like this yarn. It just makes it so much easier and makes it so clean to me.
So that's a yarn, not a, I thought you called it a thread.
Well, they call it a thread, but it's almost like a yarn. It's called fly tying thread. Peta
Okay.
Sport.
Okay.
So
Would that be the same thing as like an embroidery yarn?
I didn't hear your question, Walt.
Would that be the same thing as an embroidery yarn?
No. No, this is totally different. You could string this in a spool or a bodkin if you wanted to, but it's kind of stretchy and it's just a real interesting little material, but it's called fly tying thread, PAE. I think it says DAA, Peta Sport, something like that. Anyway, all right, so I'm gonna do the same thing on this one. I'm gonna take my same saddle hackle that I had here before. I'm gonna strip off quite a bit here to have something to work with. And let's see, I want the shiny side towards me. Whoop, got a little bit of a barb there. And I got my thread right here at the base of the parachute. I'm gonna come up and wrap.
Hey, does anybody use UV glue on the parachute post?
That's what
Or is there any benefit there?
I was going to demonstrate that later. There's a couple of neat little tricks you could do if you're a little bit nervous about trying to tie up a post or even tying up the hackle.
Okay,
I have mine set up, you know, where if I just had a couple minutes, I know Amy wants a tie as well, but I've got a couple different little, we'll say different variations on this. It looks the same, but you know, if someone has a hard time with the post, the UV does help, and I know how to do it. I'll show you.
okie dokie.
Try to get winding wraps to work down. Then again, I'm going to take my thread. I don't know if you can see it from here. I'm going to try to hold it up here where you guys could see it. But I'm going to go up here and I'm going to grab underneath it. And grab underneath it. I'm going to move the thread up and down with it. I want to get a good 2 hooks on it before I decide to cut it. I'm going to tip it here. Cut it. Whoop. Get 1 wrap around there and then do the whip finish. And grab it underneath just like you would your regular, like if you're building a head, 2-3 wraps around it. Trim off any flyaways back there underneath there. Hold it up and boom. There you go. Didn't
Very
Oh,
mean to make you sleepy there, Terry.
It's been a long day, Carl. Hey, that looks nice again.
Very nice.
Very nice.
I'm still curious. I'd have to really practice at that tying underneath the hackle.
It's hard, and that's kind
Yeah,
of takes practice.
maybe that's why I don't tie it.
Well, and I think one of the things too, Terry, is just kind of imagine it like with your woolly bugger. And so tying that and we get like, oh my gosh, we're going to mess up, you know, the hackle that we lay in for a woolly bugger. Just go through. And as you're moving your hand, you're kind of zigzagging. Like
Okay,
what you saw, Carl really covered that. He's like, I'm kind of going up through this, and it's hard to describe. But you're coming in there and you're not mashing down any of the fibers at all. And it really does work on that side.
Okay.
So if you got
I found-
Parkinson's, if you got Parkinson's disease, you do better.
Sure.
There
Okay.
you go. The shaky.
I found you can trade hands too. So like trade it through your hands as you're wrapping it.
Yep.
Who's that?
Yeah.
That's
it-
right.
And it's really, you just don't want to, like, you're not trying to bind it. It's a different kind of wrap. You still go with purpose. And so you're going around and you're still tight. But if you just kind of move it a little bit, it works its way through and it won't mash down anything.
So when you do the whip finish around the top, you don't go around the eye of the hook to do a finish.
No, you do the whip finish up underneath the fly, underneath the hackle.
Oh. Okay, because I've always done it on the eye.
You could do that too. That's just the way I learned it.
I like yours better.
Well, thank you.
Well, and you can see it keeps it on that up straight. I mean, if you were to come in and push everything back and whip finish around the eye, you could, but your tension on your threads pulling a different direction too. But if you can, up on top of the post, and it's less, from the take on that. So a fish getting it, that's probably going to last you a little bit longer than something toothy coming up on the eye. Maybe. Give it a shot.
Something that's helped me a lot. On watching I watch a lot of YouTube tying videos, and I'll watch them over and over, and I've saved them, and I go back and I rewatch them. If there's something boring on TV and we're just sitting there, I'll have my tablet out and I'll rewatch them over and over and over and over. And sometimes I'll catch like, oh, I didn't know that's what he did then. And for me, when I come down and tie, I'll have something in my mind what I want to do, and I'll sit down and do it, and I'm going to try to do it from memory. And every once in a while, I'll pull it back on my tablet and I'll get refreshed on it, but then I won't watch the video anymore. I'll just tie it. And for me, I've recognized that repetition memory wise really, really helps me tie better. And I think it would if people having a hard time, I can't remember. And there's sometimes I look and I'm like, I know I tied that fly. I can't remember how I did it,
I think absolutely. And even from the most beginner to experience, a lot of it is muscle memory and, practice perfect. It truly is a thing. Practice perfect. And so if you're not happy with it, what's it cost you? Cut it off, do it again. But it is something.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Terry.
Is anybody going to demonstrate a foam post? I've seen those, but I don't know how to tie them on.
Sure. I will be happy to. And let me switch up my camera
Go for it.
on mine. And a couple different, so I have the
Hey,
same,
Carl.
like what,
Carl, Walt would like a dozen of those, please.
Okay.
Hey, Terry.
so,
I'm on your side, Walt.
If you're gonna come out and fish for some crappie, there's no lily pads out here, and it should be pretty good on the next warm day.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thanks for the invite.
Anybody out there want to come down here, you're more than welcome.
You got to pick a day.
Tomorrow.
Still working.
This weekend, Saturday would be fine. My wife's going to pick up my granddaughter, so I'll be here with a beer.
all right. So next on this, we're gonna.
So we're gonna
Yeah,
go
okay.
to your county and look for only a guy with a beer. Think it'll take a while to find you?
You know where I live.
All right. So moving on. So I've done a couple of the foam indicators on this too. And this one's a great one because you get a lot of bang for your buck as far as with the rainies. They come in multi. And so you can change over the colors on those. You can also use them for a lot of different things on here, but I'll show you as far as with the foam post. You can also use, if you want to, you know, cut your own foam post, you could do that out of your foam and it's going to be a little bit more squared, which doesn't make any difference. This is a sight indicator and it's kind of how it plays through the water. So we'll pick yellow for this, where I've already laid on my thread on this portion of it. I'm going to come through. I want to position it on. I'm going to pull it through and you can see how that's making a line into the foam. Come back again. And one more time, it's all in place. Now I don't need the rest of this off the back. I'm not making something that has an extended body. And so for me, I'm going to come in a couple times in front and lay that. And then I'm going to come in with my scissors. And the big thing on anything, whether or not I was using the other Parapost, but you're going to come in at an angle. And the reason I'm coming in at an angle is because that'll lay down a little bit better as I go through. And so when I come through on my post, you can kind of smash that down and you can see it just kind of stays just like what Carl had talked about, as far as you just kind of zigzag this through. Come behind, in front. And the other thing is that same on a foam post, I can come in and I can do the same, come around it or to pinch in. And you can see how you tighten that down. And the big thing is not to yank. So you come around and I don't want to pull everything. It'll pull it over to my side, but then I want to anchor that back or forth in the front. So the foam post should be perpendicular to your hook shank. And on this one, pretty much is same exact, with the exception of this pattern is basically the more adult size of an emerger. So coming in, I'm going to use an Antron on the back. So how Carl had his going out basically level with, I actually want to come through with this like a trailing shuck. So it's shedding. It's coming through. And you can go with a long, and unlike any other on the dry flies where I usually go up and if nothing else up almost at a 45, I want this one to come in and not a lot of material, but I'm going to come through, going to pinch it in. It's easier for me to work with more material on this side and also on the back, but I'm going to come in and I'm actually going to wrap this so that it's coming off more of the bend of this hook. I'm going to come in afterwards and I'm going to cut that where I want it. This I don't need, so I can come in close on this. So Carl also did several different, and if you don't know what to buy, what to use, you're not quite sure on the dubbing, Antron yarn, that'll work great, right? It'll add the body that you want, so it's a little bit more thick. You can layer this all the way up as to the style of fly as well. So you can use an Antron. You can also use on your dubbing. And I'm going to use dubbing. I've already kind of prepped this. This is everything in the house as far as different. So it has a little bit of shine to it. Also has some hare's mask and a lot of other things too. With the dubbing portion of it, same as what we've done before. I don't need a dubbing loop on this, and a lot's going to get covered. I like a thicker body going up, and I want that definition. So I'm going to come in, and I've just peeled off a little bit at a time.
Did you put any
Biggest
wax on it?
first. No,
Okay.
you can, I have wax right here. And if you wanted to, you could, but I typically use wax only on my dubbing loops. I don't find I need it just on putting on dubbing, and it's a light touch on this too. So the material seems to want to do. If you have a hard time with your dubbing, just attaching, maybe put on some working hands, maybe, something where your fingers have a little bit more and it's not our St. Louis winter dry. So I'm going to come in towards the back and I'm going to go up towards the front. And again, I'm trying to make the body of this. So go back through. So now I'm out of dubbing, which is great. And that's where I want to be. And if I were doing this in kind of a rust or the same yellow, which I love, what Carl did before too, that's a classic on a hex style too. So it makes some great other patterns. Same thing here. So I have the foam post on this part of it. He talked about the grizzly, and this is where to use some of your feathers that you don't quite know what to do. Well, first off, save the really good ones for your dry flies. This is going to be more the middle section, if not the end. Flip it over and you'll be able to find something kind of to your liking on this. But I don't need all this webbing, and I don't want all that part. So I can easily strip that off. I've got a very thin quill to work from at this stage. And same as what Carl did on his, you can, on the foam, it's a little bit more because you don't have the same post going up as far as you can go around and you can go around, but you can see I only smashed in a certain section of that. It gets harder and harder as you work up the foam to get that to pull. But then, so what I like with this part of it has a very webby, it's ready to be a bug kind of feeling. So I've got a little bit to work with. I'm going to clear a little bit more. This quill is really, really thin, and I'm going to lay that just parallel right to where I am. I'm going to come in just like Carl did, 2, 3 wraps behind, and I'm going to come up in front and at least 2 to 3 wraps. If I want to do any dubbing, this is the time I need to do it right now, because I'm not going to be able to come back in with any dubbing after. So if I want to just add a little bit, just kind of that nose front, just to finish it out. I can come back behind it. And again, you just kind of work around the feather that you have. And then you can just peel off what you don't want. At this point right now, because I know Hackle does crazy stuff, and I've said this before, Hackle will drive you nuts because it jumps. Just come on in and maybe do a half hitch, wrap it on up, tighten it. If you are fishing and you lose your hackle, your fly is still usable. If you lose all of it, then it's done and all you have is a hook. So I'm not tearing this at all. I'm just laying a couple half hitches in there, and now I can come back in. I can grab with my hackle, come around. And what I like with this, and I'll show it when I flip it, I only do about 3 wraps on this, and I'll try to do the fancy part that Carl did on this. So you see how it splays out all the around. I'm going to come in almost just like what we do all the time for woolly buggers, right? We come in, you just kind of work your way around. Then I can come in and pull everything back. My tie off, a little bit different, but I pull everything back to where I want it. I can either come in at this point right now and do my whip finish. If I'm not very confident in that, I can come in, I can lay in a couple half hitches. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to cut my feathers, because why get all the way through and done and then you lose it? So I'm going to clip this underneath close, and also I can clean up on the tail.
So tell me
And
about
I can
that
come-
tail. You said something specific about it?
I'm sorry, Terry, ask that one more time again.
You said something specific about this tail versus some of the other ones that we've
This
seen
is
tonight.
so, yep. So on Carl's and what we did last week on the Mayfly, the Mayfly is very specific as to, can't find any of them. Mayfly has a very distinctive tail that goes to the back. So when that fly hits the surface, the tail portion of it's keeping it up in the film as well. Aerodynamics, right? This one, the tail is down a little bit. See the difference on the positioning on that? He came through underneath on his and he actually lifted it with the thread and kept it up. Like last week when we did that one on, again, a Mayfly. I think here's one I did on the, see on that one, how it's straight across, if not up. So that's a classic Mayfly done, right? Where the tail goes up and all of this is hitting the water, but this actually helps. And it's the last thing even touching the surface. This one is more on, and if you can imagine, shedding their shell, right? We have cicadas here in our area, shed their shell. And this is part of that shuck that would be left behind. And all it does as far as just the look from that part of it. What I like with this one, and you can see it's extremely exaggerated on the top portion of it, but you can also see how it's arched out. So every single one of these tips that hits on the water, it reminds me of those water spiders. I don't know what we call them here, but you know what I'm talking about? They
Water
hit.
spiders.
Yep. Well, every one of them gets an air bubble to it. And it's a pretty cool. So it looks like it's truly emerging up. But that, as far as the foam, you know, you can use a little scrap. You can do a lot of different things with it. But it does give you kind of an idea of how it lays in the water. This is my favorite by far, throwing them in my glasses of water. And you guys know my little experimental lab in the kitchen. You know, I get done tying and I just walk up and just throw them. Normally I don't end up with it where they miss, but sometimes I do. And they end up in my feet. But no, I just check and see, because if I have something in mind of what, and this is like the webbier portion, this shouldn't be something that we would use towards a dry fly, except for how it sits on the water is absolutely one of my favorite. And again, it's just a different version.
Amy, what's the difference in the foam versus the natural material?
This top part, so unless you're not fishing well, this top part the fish never sees. So on a gray day and you know you can't see far out, this is your sight indicator. It drops underneath the water and you can still pick up from that. It is not for anything. Again, the fish hopefully is not seeing this side of it unless it's upside down. That the foam or your parapost or binding cord or anything you want to use on that, it's a sight indicator. It's for you.
So it really doesn't make a damn bit of difference.
No, the only thing is size does matter on this. And so this would be something I would fish in faster water. I would probably go to more of a parapost or again, the binding cord or something like that, and a little bit slower. This one, because you're dealing with bubbles, you're dealing with other things. And I just want to see, it's like a strike indicator, right? We just want to see something. And then when it's not there, then you know what to do too. But as far as the foam versus its durability in the different water conditions you fish in,
So
is my opinion.
Okay, so on this, you'd go ahead and put a midget or something like that. On the
No,
brand-
it's not strong enough. It's not, on this one's gonna be more geared toward a single fly. Just in that, it doesn't have a lot of buoyancy. This is the only thing. And then I use a dry fly hook. But the rest of it is not going to hold it up for a long time. So if you're looking for something that's got a more buoyancy, or you want to do a hopper dropper, you're going to go with a foam, more foam. You can run that foam all the way back through the body, and you'll have a little bit more work out of it, but it has nowhere to take. If you do, kind of gink or something like that, it has nowhere to really take it, because the foam's not going to take it. I mean, you're just kind of working this fly for what it is. That help? Didn't help? As opposed to here, well, this one. Sorry, this guy got beat over the weekend. But here, this is a hopper for me.
Right,
Right, has all the classic, and underneath it, a built-in foam.
okay,
This thing has calf tail, it has deer, everything else. You can see it's a delicate fly.
okay,
Yeah, but if you want something bigger, I would go on the grasshopper size, beetle size. Something where it's more foam. And again, has a sight, has your foam, and you can go all day long if you want to go a dropper.
okay. All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. Well, Mick, I didn't leave you a whole lot of time for your UV demo.
That's fine. I will do it real quick. I'm just pinning myself, changing cameras real quick. It's, yep. Try to get that out of the way. Okay, so Terry, I have this pretty much done already. I already have dubbing and the tail and all that. So I have the parapost here. And so here's the UV I like. You can see it solar as bone dry. This stuff does dry tack free, which I really like. So I'm gonna take the top off. And the way to do it now is take a bodkin and kind of just get a little bit of your UV on the bodkin. I'm just gonna put this to the side down, but you're gonna take your post. You're gonna give it a tight spin on it. And then you take your bodkin and you just go over with the UV just a little bit. So I don't blind you guys. Here comes the UV.
Oh, no, I can't see.
Can't see. Sorry, guys. Got LASIK for free. Now you can kind of see the post. I can't, it's kind of does it there for you. So now it makes it easy for you to start a couple threads. Now
Okay.
do the hackle, but I'm going to change stuff up just a little bit for you. The hackle, again, as they say, grizzly, but what they do say is to use grizzly and furnace together. And that's kind of hard to do. So here I got grizzly, and it's kind of fanned out. Neat little trick I saw on YouTube is to get the furnace, you could use a brown Sharpie. And that gets you your 50-50, where just take like a little notebook or something, put your fly there. You can kind of see it. I have it between a couple
Yeah.
fingers, and you just color in. There we go. One side.
It's just like painting by numbers.
Painting by number, because that's all I could do. As you see, I did one side now. So it kind of looks like the furnace a little bit. It's kind of hard to see, but it's darker on one side than the other. So if you wanted to do the two-tone, but only have grizzly, could do it that way.
Good idea.
Red. So it's just a couple little things. So now I'm gonna take that bodkin again. It still has some UV on it. I'm gonna lock that thread in. And the hackle's in there. So it's a little bit scary to do this, but I will do this on purpose this time. There goes the thread. Now I'm going to load up that area just a little bit more with some UV. And now we're going to wrap that hackle. And it's going to grab into that UV. And again, this is good for those who are still new at tying and want to try something like this, but a little bit afraid to or have a little difficulty.
Or some people who are old to tying and still can't do it.
Yeah, hopefully I have enough UV on there. If not, I could still go a little bit more. Just put a little bit in there. We'll lock that in with the UV. That UV is getting a little dry. Now it's locked. Good. So again, now you just go in there, trim it off. You don't have to worry about trying to whip finish around it.
Tell us about the UV glue that you like.
My favorite is Solaris. So you can at least see it there. You put the cap back on it. The top of it is off, but it's Solaris. And if you could see it,
Spell that. Solar.
Solar, S-O-L-A-R. I think it's just Z-E.
Easy.
But look it up. But
What is it?
it's called Bone Dry. And this is my favorite UV that I've used. I've used other types that when you do hit it with the UV light, it's still a little tacky. This dries without any tackiness. It is dry.
Okay, so I'm gonna look at that. Solaris.
Solaris Bone Dry.
Okay,
A
thank you.
quick way of doing it. That way, if someone's a little afraid of trying to whip finish around it, you could use a little UV.
You know, I noticed, Carl, when you were doing, I mean, Nick, when you were doing that, that when you turn it vertical, that it looked like it would be easier to wrap your thread around it that way.
Yes.
If you were going to use thread instead of that. I
Yeah.
think I would attempt that easier than doing it horizontal.
Yes. It's again, different little tricks. Yeah, I mean, just moving it to the vertical, then you kind of get an easier rip.
Yeah,
Just different tricks. You know, you saw from Carl and Amy were absolutely outstanding. This is just little different ways of doing it.
well, you guys are great tonight. A lot of talent.
So that's all I got. We pull the pin off me. We could go back to gallery.
All right. Well, great one, everybody. Carl, thanks
Yeah.
for you too. Mick, thanks. Appreciate that too, because I think it's good just for everybody to get an idea of what's different. Try something, right?
Yep.
Just try something. And well, it sounds like from Carl's first one up, everybody looked at his, it looked like Clouser. And so I think the funnier thing is, first off, who wants to see what next week? So like I said earlier, we've kept everybody on a little bit longer than usual, but anybody have any requests or topics of discussion for next week?
More Clouser, more Clouser.
Well, we could do dumbbell eyes, so we could do a Clouser, we could do like a squirrel zonker.
What about a crowd ad with
Well,
You missed that
let's
one,
pick
Walt.
one. We got all year, so let's pick one. So
How about we do Clouser minnows?
More Clouser.
Terry wants
Clousers,
Clouser
all
minnows.
right. Can we
I got the
do our
Clouser
variations?
Yeah, do different variations.
Different variations. I'm covering dumbbell eyes because I love them.
Yep.
And then and because I learned the hard way, I tied all mine the wrong way. So I tied them on the up part, thinking that's how your fly went through the water when I first started this. And then somebody said, you're tying all your flies upside down. So I'll go ahead and give you guys my newbie version of what and how to tie on dumbbells.
So you're
And,
talking about tying it on the belly of the hook?
We'll find
Yeah,
out next week.
So,
We,
so here's two
we-
examples. Amy, I did exactly what you did.
Yep.
When I was playing with this, I tied it upside down on it, but I wanted to go for getting the dark color on the top and the white color on the bottom, but I wanted the weight underneath the hook to make it look like that. So it's kind of reverse Clouser. This one that I did here, it's backwards. So if I put it in the water, it'll fish like a Clouser. But then I got my colors backwards.
yep.
So there's some
The what?
perfect examples of what not to do.
And that's exactly because I kept picturing it like how I saw it on my Vice. And you're tying, it's like that right brain, left brain thing, but you're tying it upside down. And where you work from the eyeballs in gives you the layers for that. And whether or not it's a minnow, whatever variation of materials you're using, Clousers, obviously, Bob Clouser owns that. By the way, he's a volunteer down in Space Coast, and in case anybody wants to be jealous of that, and he's going to be on a podcast next Wednesday, going live from there. So he's still doing well. And but anyway, we will go through all this. I'll see if we can't get an extra visitor on there to school all of us. And bucktail, yay. Not my favorite.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing, I can't stand bucktail. Can't stand the way it smells. Can't stand to open the bag of it. Ugh. You all know what I'm talking about. Can't stand it. But we'll be doing real live Clousers with dumbbell eyes next week.
Hey, Mick, stay on there.
All right, I'll stay on.
Hey,
Wait
Walt,
a minute. Back up that conversation a minute. What, Walt, did you just like bark an order at him? Stay on.
Stay on.
I didn't bark. I
Hey, Mick.
requested it.
Maybe he
Mick.
hasn't had dinner yet.
Show me that glue again, please. I got it up on the screen. Make sure I got the right
Solaris.
one.
Solaris.
Yeah, put it on its side so I can read there's a couple of different ones. That's why I'm asking you to do this.
Bone dry.
Okay, I got it. You the man, Mick. You the man.
I like this
And
stuff.
and the only thing I'll say with that is, yeah, great, but your UV light is 90% of it. If you don't have a good UV light on it, then you're going to be struggling with it. It's going to be tacky. Luckily, spring's around the corner for us. Take it outside, let them sit on a little, make sure you buckle in your hooks, but let them sit out in the sunshine and it'll do the same thing. But your UV light to make sure that cures up well. And then we can talk about all kinds of UV stuff, rubbing it with rubbing alcohol and all the other stuff, because they will stay tacky and they are not fun when you're trying to peel them apart in your fly box. Other than that,
So
just leave you guys with a whole lot of thoughts
What's
to think
your-
on for next week.
what's your suggestions on UV light?
Mine is Lumen Shooter.
What is it called?
Lumen Shooter.
Lumen.
just want to get one that's got enough power where it'll dry quickly versus the little
Yep.
ones that
Well,
aren't very strong.
How do you well, here's a Lumen Shooter. Is that rechargeable? Yeah.
Yes. Yep, I have the
Okay.
rechargeable one. Love it. And then the
I've
other
got a-
thing too, so I like Bondec. I just like it. It's all right,
Oh, yeah, that's
little
cool.
cute thing, little comes in this. And I actually started in the plumbing industry. Your UV glue is on this side in a little cartridge. And anybody in St. Louis, you guys have seen me use this before. So there's your UV glue, right? And then your UV light is right here. And you can find these at, so this guy's shot, but that you just flip that little switch. You can find these at Harbor Freight. You can find them on Amazon. It was actually the first, before Flex Seal was out. This was, Bondex was the Bondec was a great one. So I love it. You can get the cartridges in here. You can redo your batteries and everything. I have, this is probably one of my all-time, again, comes with all the little things here. I have probably 4 or 5 of them under here. It's usually the fastest one. And if my light goes out like the other one does, the Bondec stuff is great. And there's another one, has the cartridges. You can find it on Amazon. And then I just get a really good light. That's the
Yeah,
difference.
I've got that Bondix, but I've had that same thing of it being tacky. So
Yep,
I
and then
just ordered the better light. Hopefully that'll take care of it.
Keep
Hey,
your
Roger, where are you?
rechargeable.
Roger, where are you at today? You're not at home.
I'm at Bennett Springs.
You're at Bennett
Got it.
Springs?
Ah.
Oh, poor baby. Oh, I'm so sorry for you.
Of course, I had a hard lesson learned today. Like I mentioned
Uh-oh.
earlier, I had to cut about the first 5 to 7 feet off of my fly line. Changed it, brand new line on it. It's out there casting and something was hanging it up as it was going through the guides. It pulled it in. And I don't know what it was from, but I had cut them about 80% way through the line. So my only choice was to just cut it off. And point lesson learned is always be sure you have some way to tie a good nail knot. So the only way then to put my leader on was to snip the loop off the leader and take out my little tool and do a nail knot to attach my tip it to the fly line. But I no longer have a final taper on that brand new fly line.
Oh, that sucks.
I-
Well, the
It-
fish will
It
still
could have
love
been,
you,
it could have been a
Roger.
really good story with a lunker that you had and it broke off.
Yeah,
I don't know, where'd your fly line come from? We could definitely claim that there was a malfunction.
it was probably from this lunker stepping on it or something.
I did that yesterday on mine and all of a sudden looked down and went, man. Anyway, I'm gonna go eat dinner. Great to see everybody this week.
Yeah.
And we will be doing dumbbells and Klausers for next week. So
Sure.
read up and read up. If you would like to jump in on the tying, please do. So that we can rotate around, and even if you're not comfortable with it, jump in on the tying. We're happy to have you, and we'll walk you through. It's not really fun to be on the video, but anybody can tie.
Everybody
Got
be
about an
well.
18 to 20 incher on a white thread jig.
Tight lines, everyone.
Yep, those white thread jigs are nothing but.
Send
Good luck,
send
Roger.
pictures.
Artistry.
Don't catch them all, Roger.
Yep, send some for us. All right, take care. I'll stay on, Walt. I'm gonna hit the